Most of us know that refined sugar shouldn't make up a big part of our diet, let alone our baby's diet. Yet aiming for a diet that's completely devoid of refined sugar 100% of the time is rarely a realistic option. So, by what age is it okay for our babies to have their first taste of refined sugar? And what happens if they have sugar before that? That's what we'll chat about in this video. When it comes to sugar in babies, many health organizations have issued specific statements, and most of them agree that babies and toddlers should have limited amounts, if any amount at all, of refined sugar in their diet before the age of 2. For instance, the World Health Organization recommends that children of all ages limit their sugar intake to a maximum of 10% of their total calories, but the European Society of Pediatric Gastroenterology, Hepatology and Nutrition suggests that parents of children under 2 aim to provide less than 5% of their daily calories from refined sugars. In North America, the American Heart Association recommends that children under 2 completely avoid all sources of added sugar, and Health Canada simply states that children under 2 should be served foods prepared with little or no added sugar at all. Now, what is considered to fall under the refined sugar category also differs between these health organizations. For instance, in North America, or specifically in Canada and the US, health professionals talk about added sugars, and added sugars basically includes all sugars that are not naturally present in foods and have been added to them. For instance, sweetened fruit juice would be a source of added sugar, whereas unsweetened fruit juice would not be. But in Europe, health professionals use the word free sugars rather than added sugars, and the main difference between the two is that free sugars refers both to sugars that are added to foods as well as sugars that are naturally present in certain foods like syrups, honey, unsweetened fruit and vegetable juices, or fruit concentrates. So basically, the Europeans consider fruit juice, whether it's sweetened or not, as a source of refined sugar, whereas the Americans and the Canadians do not. Although it is interesting to see the differences between the different health organization recommendations, you don't need to get bogged down by the details, because pretty much all of them agree that parents should serve their little ones as little refined sugar as possible, especially in the first 2 years of life. So with that said, you may be wondering, okay, well, what happens if I do let my child have sugar before the age of 2? And to properly answer this question, let's review the main reasons why sugar is not considered good for babies. The first reason is that babies and toddlers have very small stomachs, and foods rich in refined sugars tend to be rich in calories, but low in other nutrients. So basically, filling your child's limited stomach space with sugar-rich foods means there's less space left over for more nutrient-dense foods, which can make it challenging for them to get the amount of daily nutrients they need to grow and develop to the best of their ability. Just in case you hadn't noticed, babies tend to have a biological preference for sweet taste and tend to naturally dislike bitter tasting foods like most vegetables. So feeding your baby sweets can reinforce this natural preference and make it more difficult to introduce new foods or reduce picky eating behaviors later on. And finally, studies suggest that children that have a diet that's rich in refined sugar tend to have a higher likelihood of tooth decay, obesity, or preventable diseases like heart disease, for example, later in life. If you want to take a deep dive into the research, head on over to the veggies&more website, where I've referenced sources to the studies as well as official recommendations throughout this article. There, you'll also be able to find easy swaps to reduce the sugar content of your baby's diet, as well as a more in-depth discussion about fruit juices, chocolate, and honey. Now, does this practically mean that your child cannot enjoy their first taste of birthday cake or a lick of sorbet in the summer? I really don't think so. As a health professional and nutrition professional, I do agree that sugar is definitely not an essential part of a person's diet, child or adults, let's be honest here. But I also believe that if you occasionally offer small amounts of sugar, that's unlikely to have a dramatic impact on your child's growth or taste preferences or tooth decay or even a disease risk later in life, as long as the bulk of their diet remains varied, well-balanced, rich in nutrients, and contains very little amounts of refined sugar as a general rule. For example, my little one's diet contains very little refined sugar most of the time, but I don't shy away from letting her have a taste of maple syrup or a few chocolate sprinkles, or hagelslag as the Dutch call it here, on her peanut butter toast from time to time. What are your thoughts on this? And when did you first introduce your baby to refined sugar? Let me know in the comments below. And with that said, that's it for today. Until next time, ciao ciao!